welcome to the weekly AMA for Tradelab.AI. My name is Jake, and today is January 28th of 2023. We're going to go over some basics, some of the updates for this week as we normally do, and then we'll jump into some of the questions and whatever else that we want to cover this week here. So the main things I wanted to go over this week really center around some of the updates we've been doing for the servers. We've been consistently working on the servers for the past couple weeks, and we have seen large improvements with both performance and scalability and cost. Currently we are still wrapping up the final the final tweaks that we're making, and we're actually, I believe, still running on the older servers. However, the older servers are still much faster than they ever have been. Much quicker, and the new servers that we're going to, in tests that we've done, have seen 2x and 3x speeds, and they cut costs as well, because we're managing everything from the metal ourselves instead of having a pre-managed package, if you will. To sort of set up with and customize. We've just built everything from the ground up, and so that's allowed us to really have control and get the performance that we want, as well as at the same time cut costs, which is just like a twofer. So that's where we're at there. Any comments or questions about that real quick?
No, it's incredible news there.
Okay, great. So besides the performance stuff that we've been working on, I've been addressing a few issues that are still lingering. There is an issue with Bybit inverse symbols, and I actually do have a fix for that. I pushed the fix, and we had some issues, and so I have now reverted the fix, and I'm continuing to test. But that's going to be out here soon. And speaking of that, I wanted to cover some policy changes and some things that we're doing here on my side, and also in the community, to further the stability and overall reliability of the service. So once in a while, I have been pushing changes and doing things that are somewhat large, and in those aspects I heavily test and change things, and then in other aspects there's changes that are made, and I still push out to testnet, but I don't hold it for a very long time to let other people verify it or test, and so I've been able to do rapid development for people and fix things very quickly, which is very good. But sometimes these things have been pushed and then caused issues, and the worst times are when I'm fixing something towards the end of the night, and then I go to bed and then wake up and there's been issues for hours. Right. So in those cases, we're doing a couple things. One, I am trying to get some just basic help to be able to troubleshoot these things, and for somebody that's not in my time zone, so that we do have 24-hour coverage. And so that's one of the things that I'm looking into, and talking to some people. If anybody's interested, contact me and we can talk. We are still very bootstrapped, so it is one of those things about payment and all of that sort of stuff, but we'll figure it out, right? So we'll get that sorted. In addition to that, I am making larger strides to organize a tester community. So in the past, I've just sort of, and this is my own fault, I've just sort of said, hey, I need testers, and there's I have a test net, and I need people to help me test, and if we don't catch things, then they go out to production, and that's not good. And so I've almost, just sort of given an ultimatum to everybody, and then it hasn't worked. Ultimatums rarely do, and so nobody, not nobody. There's been a couple people who have helped, but we don't have a large scale of people on the test net that are running, maybe test trades with fake money or something like that, and monitoring those so that when I do push changes, I can get a wide array of use cases to help test. I have dozens of exchange accounts, and I know it may not seem like it to some people, but I sit here and test and test and make different trades here and there and all of that sort of stuff. But everybody, this is one of those things. This isn't 3 commas where they sort of funnel you into a particular way to use things, and this is how you use it, fill it out. This is so open that it's both a blessing and a curse, right? Because I have to keep up with all of those use cases, and I also have to find those use cases. I couldn't do this in a vacuum. I couldn't, just go back to the drawing board and then come back and release it when it's quote unquote stable. We've actually had it stable many times, but the problem is that we basically will get it stable, and then another upgrade will come out and develop it or something, and then we'll have issue build on that, right? Or somebody will come up with a new use case, and I'll say, okay, we'll add something new to it, and we have to validate that, and validating it against normal use cases. That's what I do. But we have such, again, wide variety that we need representation in the testing pool. And so what I basically have been doing is going out and reaching out to different people, and I've created a tester team. If you're interested in joining this tester team, reach out to me on Discord and we can coordinate. I've basically started building a workflow, a system where I'm going to be holding any and all changes for a little bit longer than I traditionally have, and we're going to let the testers verify that, and I'll notify them every time I push. Eventually, we're going to be going towards a weekly release schedule, where if you do have something that you need fixed, it'll be pushed on Friday, and or something like that. I don't know what day it'll be, but it's something that we have to get to for more stability, and as we do that, it should provide more stability where people don't need more rapid changes like we're doing right now, right? So anyway, that's all of the hard and gritty news, but I do want to make sure that it's publicly known that I think about this a lot. We are addressing it. So for anybody who has felt like, it works great, and then there's issues, and that's a big deal in this sort of software, right? And I recognize that. So we are making changes, policy changes, workflow changes to address those things. It is a challenge. The real solution to all of this is just a QA team. However, I'm still bootstrapping this. We're working on getting funding. We are looking at hopefully releasing a WeFunder funding round within the next about a month or so, and hopefully that will allow us to do those sorts of things as well. So, but yeah, I just wanted to remain transparent on everything that has been going on. For anybody who has concerns, we're working through them, and it's something that we'll be talking more about and making sure that that everybody has input on. Some of the things that I have spoken about today have been suggested by a few people, and also some myself. Great minds think alike, right? And so we've been taking that input from people and working through that. So any questions on that? Cool, cool. All right. So besides that,
Thank you, good.
awesome. All right. So besides that, we had a few smaller updates to the site this week. I think one of the major ones was this profit and loss. It's now properly calculating. There's some instances where it doesn't exactly calculate, and that's because of larger factors such as your stop loss and things of that nature. Some of those things, I'm just gonna have to put like a note that says, "Hey, due to these factors, this may not be correct" or something like that. Um, and so I'm working on that. And there are some things that I think I can improve and catch some other cases. So, but I wanted to show you guys this and let me know how this works for you, as far as estimating what your profit and loss would be on all of your take profits and stop losses provided in the lines panel. Okay. In addition to that, like I said, I've already covered that we have been doing a whole bunch of server updates and maintenance. So I did cover that, and that's been going well. I also did a big overhaul on the heartbeats. So we now have, I guess you could say, more consistent heartbeats. They're happening more consistently at the start of the minute. Sometimes they were varying back and forth, and I've been able to make them happen a little bit more consistently throughout the system for everybody. I've also cut down on the processing, as we talked about with the server performance and stuff. There's been a few tweaks to how I process rules, how I process heartbeats, and things of that nature that I've been able to increase performance. None of these tweaks, they're all fairly on the technical side, and none of these tweaks would actually affect how the rules have been running for you guys. Really, the main tweak is that I increased the filtering ability so that I don't run rules that I know won't pass. Right, but again, they're rules that could never pass, and so it's not gonna affect you guys. And so, besides that, um, trying to think. I should pull up my list. I knew, I got rid of this right before the call, and I had a little bug in my head that I was like, "You're gonna need that." 1 second here. Just gonna look at the history, make sure I'm not missing anything. So we have been working on the P&L. So P&L has been tweaked a few times, and we're still tweaking on it. Yeah, and I think the major thing I've been working on in the background, but it's just not ready yet, is the copy trading. So that had been blocked by CCXT and a few other things, and now I'm back on it and finishing it up. It does already have, sort of a form and function. So we can do copy trading through shared alerts. However, if you share your alerts and share your template, somebody can just copy it and they can edit it if they want, basically, right? And so to protect copy trading, instead of just being able to go and copy a whole strategy, we have a copy trades button, right? So that's actually explained here. You can copy the strategy or follow the strategy. Follow is the same as copy trading, and I'm playing around with the naming, trying to figure out exactly how I want to name these things. But basically, if you look at a particular strategy, you have two different options: either copy setup or copy trades. And if you copy trades, That's using the full copy trading system, which is what I'm still working on. Copy setup would allow you to copy it, and if they also shared their alerts, you can copy their alerts, which basically means that you're copying their trades, right? You can trade along with them, but it also means that you have full access to editing the rules and viewing the rules and the strategy and everything else. For people who want to lock that down and only allow people to just copy trade along with their trades, that's what this button would do. And when we copy something, right now it has a following badge. So like I said, I'm going back and forth with the naming, but I'll get this sorted out before it's pushed. And basically, if you hit edit, it shows this different type of interface. So instead of pulling up the whole builder, this is all you get. And it's the exchange. You select what exchange you want, and it's already filtered by what exchange you can use. So I don't allow you to use Binance on Bybit. If you're copying somebody from, Bybit, if they're using Bybit, then you have to use Bybit, right? Same type of thing. So I filter all that out so that it forces you to use the right one, and then I also allow you to change your amount and your leverage, and of course your types, as we've gotten used to. Okay, so that's how that works, and that's not ready yet, but it's still it's coming. So that's what I've been working on in the background. Any questions on that?
Looking good, Jack.
Awesome. All right, well, we are getting to the end of my update portion. We can talk a little bit about what's coming up. So we just talked about copy trading. I'm also working on TAlib, and that is coming along. I'm having to split my focus, so it's not going as fast as I'd like, but it's coming along. And really, what's taken the most focus is these performance and server changes, and the focus of building a better process, right, and sorting out all these issues. So that takes a little bit of focus and time, but once we get those, sort of business things sorted out, we'll be back at full development progress, right? So a little bit of a slowdown, but still working on it. The main thing that I'm working on right now is copy trading, and then we got TAlib, of course, and also on the roadmap, quickly behind that is stock trading with Alpaca, right? So we're working on that, and then that's Q1 2023, and with TAlib, we're also going to see the first version of the Market Shaper engine. So for people who don't know about the Market Shaper engine, this is what that looks like. And the Market Shaper engine allows us to create shapes out of how the market feels, right? So you can have these shapes and they change over time. So this might be BTC, and it might feel this way one moment, and then it changes over time. We get these shapes from metrics, and these metrics are actually customizable, but they're composite metrics, and we sort of give you a set of them, and you can sort of use them in any combination that you want, right? Not any combination. They're actually color coded, and we'll talk about this more later. But this needs to remain balanced, right? So if I just put a whole bunch of oscillators on here for just for momentum and stuff, then it wouldn't really be balanced and tell me everything I need to know about how the market feels. And so this is something that I've actually been designing that allows us to actually go back and forth between different setups, but keep it balanced so that it's diverse enough and not everybody's running off of the same signals, but it is still doing its job in getting the correct sentiment of the market. So that's how that works, and then basically from there we can use these shapes to automate the ability to turn on and off your strategies automatically. So imagine that you have a strategy and he places a trade against this shape and it goes well. awesome. So we make a note about that. We have a little AI puppet, machine learning little program that goes in and makes a note and says that's good and this is how much profit I made. And then later on, a day later or something, the market looks like this and I place a trade with that same strategy and it didn't go well. I lost. So we make a note of that, and eventually we can learn enough where we can turn on and off your strategies based on what this shape looks like. So that's what's coming up here in the next quarter. We have the Timmy preview that I've been working on, and we're seeing more and more of Timmy. I mentioned last week that we'll be having Timmy do parsing from places like Twitter and Discord and stuff. So imagine having an Elon tweet come in, and instead of just, right now we sort of break things apart into fields so that you can, have a particular sentence broken apart. But what if you wanted to read text and understand if it's good or bad? You could look for certain words within text, but you couldn't really understand. Now we're going to have Timmy with his AI model be able to process, what Elon or somebody else says, right? And then you can teach that with your own sort of prompting and modeling. You can give it an example of however many tweets and say good, bad, and then it can categorize that, and then give you, you feed it the tweet and it'll give you back an alert that either says good or bad, right, or neutral maybe, right? So that's how that works. So that's what's coming up. Of course, we do have TD Ameritrade on the horizon. There's tons of red tape there, and so we've been working through that, and we'll get there eventually. We also have Forex brokers coming. I think the main one's going to be Forex.com, and then we'll be looking at others as well. All right. Okay, so any questions beyond that? Looks like we got a full crowd now. So thanks everybody for joining us here. And that is going to wrap up the Jake talking portion of this of this week's AMA. So I've gone through all the updates. Just for everybody who joined late, the main points of the updates, we've been doing a lot of server upgrades. There's been just a very few small things that I've added to the UI, such as finally making, well, that's not a good example. Going back to, oh, I'll just make one. I don't know, but so we've been working on the servers and the performance, and that's been going well. I did make a couple changes to the UI. This in particular is what I was just looking at, and I just showed an example of it, and I'm trying to see. I probably just have something misconfigured. I think I switched accounts. So I just gotta look, but basically this is supposed to pull in the price and the size, yeah, I don't know, and grab that and then calculate the profit and loss, right? So I'll take a look at that. But besides that, there hasn't been a whole lot of changes like there normally is because we've been working on that. I also talked about some of the changes that we're doing to testing to make sure that we catch more bugs, inviting more people to the testnet. So we do have a testnet. I should show that. This testnet here, testnet.tradelab.AI. You can create your own account here. It's a separate website, right? So you do have to sign up again, and you can actually go over to the settings page And well, normally I have to re-enable it. There's a migrate strategies button that actually migrates all of your strategies from the production down to the testnet, so you don't have to rebuild everything, right? So you can copy that down, and of course you can start with templates here as well. We got the same templates and that sort of stuff on the testnet. The point here is that the more people help test and run trades, even if it's fake money and simulated symbols on the testnet, the more I'm able to catch things, right, and make sure that we don't have bugs that push to people on production. So, besides saying that once more, as I've said, I'm actually making some larger changes in the background so that I'm bringing more of a cohesive group together to help test and instead of just taking volunteers. And I'm also working on some policy changes on my end to cut down on the number of changes that are being pushed and eventually go to a regular excuse me, and eventually go to a more regular release schedule. So that that is basically the highlights of the updates once again, and that'll wrap up this portion. So now I'm going to go ahead and open it to general questions. Anything that anybody wants to see me go over, I can, sort of give you a quick tutorial right here live. So, how's everybody doing?
Hi, my name is Nick. I just started using the program recently. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hey Nick, nice to meet you.
Hey, I just wanted to tell you the app looks amazing. I've had a really good experience with it so far. There's a bit of a learning curve, but your videos have helped. I'm specifically trying to use my strategies that I use on TradingView, connect them to the Tradelab to be able to actually make trades on my exchange. And just learning how to do it has been quite a challenge, but I really appreciate all the videos that you've been putting out showing how to implement the strategies.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. I'm glad that they've helped. And that's also why we do these calls as well. So I record and stream these to sort of create more content based off of these questions. And to that point, I guess I should mention I am still working on the new video series. So if nobody's missed this or seen this yet, hope nobody's missed this. This is a very useful tool. It's in the useful links here on TradeLab. And I believe it's also in the education page as well. And so this is the overview of the strategy builder. And this actually is a written, sort of documentation in slideshow format. And I'll explain why in a second. That goes through all the different features that you're going to find in the strategy builder. Really, it's actually broken down into 4 main sections. If we take a look at the slides, it's actually a really long slideshow. It's 69 slides, and again, I'll explain why here in a second, but it's actually broken down into 4 main sections, and this actually represents the 4 main systems that are built into the strategy builder in TradeLab. And really, the goal here is for people to understand. You said that there's a learning curve. There absolutely is. And actually, there's been a learning curve even teaching that learning curve, right? I've sort of had to learn the best way to teach this and approach it. And this is something that I've done often in my career, and every time it's a little bit different, right? But I think the best way that I've found so far is to really just break it down and say, listen, there's 4 different main systems that I've developed so far that are inside of the builder. Those systems are the alerts, which are in green here, the variables, which are in red here, the lines system, which is in blue right here, and then the rules system, which is in yellow right here. And so that basically breaks it down to the point where what you need to do when you're approaching learning this is just learn each system. Learn what each system does and why it's there, and then eventually you're going to start combining those systems and say, okay, well, I'm going to use the alert system, but then I'm going to use my alert in my rules, right? And as you combine those systems, that's where the real power comes in, and you can really start to bend the rules a little bit, and you're allowed to do things that you're not normally allowed to do, right? And so that's where the power comes in, but it is, sort of an open-ended system. So there is a learning curve to it. And I think this way of breaking down those systems and saying, okay, hey, learn each of these 4 things and then start thinking about how they sort of coalesce together, I think is my new approach to showing this off. And so to wrap that up, this whole slideshow is the foundation for the new series of videos that I've been working on. So there's lots more videos coming here pretty soon, and yeah, so hope that helps.
Hey, thanks a lot for putting that out. Yeah, I just wanted to mention, as you were talking, I kind of had a thought, and what you've designed here is so customizable. It's really amazing. I'm really impressed. I just want to let you know. But it seems like TradingView could be a data source, but our strategies could actually be built within Tradelab more so. That's where I want to get once I understand how all of this works together. So thank you for putting that out there. I'll definitely be looking at that documentation.
Yeah, and so a few people in here already know, but I know you're new. I was actually just talking about our roadmap, and I mentioned TAlib. I always call it that, and I know a lot of people understand what I'm talking about. What that is live data, okay? And actually, you were just talking about the fact that right now we use TradingView as a data source. And we definitely do, and the only way that we can do much of anything is by running our rules against alerts that are fired into us. However, that's changing. What I've been working on in the past couple months is a new system that has a totally new server that we're spinning up. And this new server just churns data all the time, just churning all the data that we need, and what it's doing is it's collecting the RSI, the ATR, the EMA, whatever it is somebody needs. And so I'm actually doing it on demand in a way where as you put in a rule and say I need this, I'm making a registration for that and telling that server, hey, you need to keep up with this, right? And then I put it in a sort of shared cache, and then people, even if I wanted the RSI for BTC on Bybit and you wanted the RSI, I wouldn't have to get it twice. I just get it once, and then we both use it in our own way. Because you can customize like the length of an EMA or something like that. You can have a different length, and I can have a different length, right? And so stuff like that. So yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting. That's coming, and that's really going to open up, as you said, really building strategies with Tradelab. Just one-stop shop, just come in and build it, and of course that also means that some people won't even need a TradingView subscription to send those alerts with, right? A lot of people were using free TradingView, and then they had to get paid TradingView because they couldn't send webhooks without paying for a subscription. Well, that may be able to go away in some use cases and circumstances, right? So that's really cool. And then, I guess I should mention back on our roadmap here, I didn't go too far down the year, but eventually we're working on back testing. It's probably not going to be done till like the end of this year, but back testing is something that I have gotten a lot of requests for. It's something that I've looked at other backtesting solutions, and there's a very obvious gap in what they're doing and what they're prepared to do for backtesting, between the expectations that some of these new users have and really what is possible to do, but they're just not doing it. And so it's going to take a lot of time. Even when I say we're going to have backtesting at the end of this year, it may not be much better than theirs. But I have a plan of what needs to be added for that to happen, right? And I there's just certain things like Heiken-Ashi and Renko, and the way that they don't use, like, not even just TradingView. So I'm saying they, but TradingView specifically. But many places don't use the live prices when you switch candles, or when you're looking at some other thing. They're just looking at one chart. And a lot of these guys aren't always hooked up to your API key. And so there are some differences in, even the public data that you're going to get and what you're allowed to see and stuff like that. And so being able to trade from the bot and also backtest from the bot, we won't have any of those weird TradingView had a different name for this symbol type of stuff, right? It'll all just be, one thing. So yeah, so I wanted to mention that, and that's where we're going with the backtesting and live data as well.
It's funny that you mentioned that. You took the words right out of my mouth. I was about to ask about back testing. I've noticed, me learning the system right now. I'm having to create my strategy in TradingView, do the back testing there, and then see how I can use alerts to feed the data over into Tradelab. But being able to do it all from Tradelab would be amazing.
Yeah, and so when I started this, I was not intending to try to replace or rival TradingView, and I'm still not. I, you know, would you know, I'm sort of wandering into that territory, trying to do certain things like that. But I'm actually still, using TradingView charts and stuff, and that's something that I don't have a whole lot of on the website. But that's more coming. So I do have access to the new TradingView library. I guess it's not new, but it's new to me, and it's not publicly accessible, right? And so they gave me access, and so I am working on doing the same type of charts that you see everybody else use. Those are all TradingView charts, and I'm not looking to replace them in the sense of all of that data collection. That's where we get a lot of data, but I do think that we are sort of skirting many of the features that people use TradingView for, and allowing them to just come into a one-stop shop. So there's that. I guess, want to mention before we get off that topic, we talked about backtesting, and what's funny is I just noticed that these two things are the same. I need to change this. So it should be backtesting here with Timmy integration to the rules, and then full Timmy integration of backtesting. That's what it's meant to be. And so, like, what I mean by that is, so if we go back to here with Timmy, for people who aren't familiar with Timmy, he's your AI trading assistant who is here to help you with your strategies, give suggestions. He can even write Pine script for you, that sort of stuff. And what I'm doing here is building a proprietary GPT model. So a lot of people, I'm sure, have heard of ChatGPT. This is something that I've been working on even before this. GPT-3 has been out for a couple years now, and I've been using that, and that's what ChatGPT is built on, is GPT-3. And so they have a lot of moderation layers and extra stuff to make it very conversive. Well, I've put a lot of that own stuff here as well. So I've put my own moderation layer. I've put my own prompting to try to keep it talking about trading and the right sort of that sort of stuff. And then what I'm also doing is I'm creating a proprietary logic model that is actually going to allow Timmy to understand your rules. So I built all of these rules from the ground up so that Timmy knows what they are. And that's why they're blocks. AI is really good at dealing with that type of data. And so that's why I made it like this. And so now the idea is that I can say, hey, Timmy, I need, to make a break even. And he can create the line for me. He can create any variables I need, and then he can go in and create the rules. Because I will have been given him a whole bunch of examples of all these blocks and telling him what all these blocks are doing, right? And so he'll understand the sort of patterns and things that need to happen. And then he can spit that out, and he'll spit it out in a way where he'll tell you, okay, here, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to create this rule and do this. But he's actually, on the back end, going to spit me out a whole bunch of other stuff that's going to tell my application how to make that happen, right? And so he's actually going to be making the rules and the lines and everything for you. And so that's what we mean by full Timmy integration by Q4, actually. And then in addition to that, back testing as a separate system. Okay, and so Timmy will be able to finally help with your rules, and I'm hoping to have that somewhere around here. You'll see that we have Q2, and then we jump to Q4. So like these are bigger things, and these will come, in between there, and then eventually, right after that, I want to start working on integrating the back testing into Timmy. So that is the full realization of Timmy's power. Which is, okay, Timmy, I got bad drawdown, and I need you to help me fix it. All right, so me as Timmy, I'm gonna look at all your rules, and I'm gonna create 100 different copies of your strategy with little tweaks to the rules. I'm gonna remove this, add this. I'm gonna look up all my information on systems and maybe add a whole break-even system. So I add 2 more rules, 3 more rules, and I do all this stuff, and I had 100 different versions of your strategy, and now I'm going to go back test them, right? And you might say this to Timmy, and Timmy might go away for several minutes or hours. I'm not exactly sure fully how it's going to work in terms of time yet, but he's going to go away, and then eventually, bing, he'll get a message from Timmy that says, hey, I ran all these tests, and I found that if you, do these changes and remove this and add this, you'll get, 10% better drawdown. Do you want to make the changes? And you hit yes or no, and then he makes the changes for you, right? And so that's the end goal. And honestly, I thought that Timmy and all of that was going to take to the end of 2024. This might be a little bit optimistic, but with everything that's happened in the past several months with ChatGPT and everything, it has accelerated that timeline. Not out of like demand or necessity, but like out of sheer power. That I'm just so impressed by what these models are able to do now, and it's just growing stronger and stronger every day. And so that's where we're at. So I'm hoping to have that, towards the end of this year. And yeah. Any other questions?
No questions, but just brilliant. This Timmy backtesting is the best thing that I ever seen so far.
That's awesome. All right.
I've got another question. I find it really interesting what you said about the Timmy bot. So it sounds like you're saying that your vision is for us as customers to be able to talk to Timmy to be able to get our strategy set up and our rules set up. That would kind of reduce the learning curve of actually having to go through and do all the clicks and all the different um, finding the items in the interface and all that. So would the ultimately the AI be able to like make changes to your strategies for you if you ask it to?
Yes, 100%. And that is, you're right on point that Timmy is going to be a lot of people's first interface with this complicated
That's an
system.
amazing interface.
Yeah,
That's the best interface.
right.
I think you're right on target.
Yeah. And actually I should back up for a second and do say that, and this is something that I talk about a lot. Um, I've been making tools for a long time. I started programming when I was really young, and all my life has been building stuff that builds stuff. Right? I really have a fascination with that, and so um, this is something with AI that I've done in different ways and wanted to do for a while, and so I always build tools in a way that I bring all the power first, and it's usually very complicated. It feels fairly raw, right? And this is actually month like 19 of this project from the very beginning. We've been publicly available for maybe 3 or 4 months now, but we're about 18, 19 months in at this point. So it's gone through many different iterations, and it isn't as rough as it used to be. And it does have more simple layers, such as the line system wasn't there before, right? And we even have this system where it walks you through in a nice, simple manner. Well, I'm bringing this up because I actually have other simple layers planned, and this is what I always do. I provide all of the power and then put the simple layers on top, right? And one of those other simple layers is a module system, something I've worked on a couple times throughout this, but I've just never had enough focused time to finish it because I've been running around fixing other things. And the module system is really going to help fill the gap for people, even without Timmy, because what it does is it allows me or anybody to create a say like a break-even module, okay, and that module would take both of these rules and combine them together. Okay, and so now I would also need a variable, and I would also need, maybe a line or something where I would need to hook into an existing line. And so modules can have inputs and outputs, they can have their own variables and their own lines. And so it's a little bit more complicated, but for the people who do understand all the rules, they're going to find it amazing because they get to save their own rules and then quickly reuse stuff. But the benefit to everybody else is that they can share those, and then eventually, what we can have is we can have a strategy wizard. And this is something that I started building as well. I have the very bare bones of it. And it's just like a wizard like this, but it walks you through the entire process of setting up a trade with all the different trade settings, right? So it would ask you how much do you want to trade, what side do you want to be on, do you want it to trade long and short? We'll put in the rules automatically for you, right? We'll let you set up your time in force and your timeouts and stuff. We'll let you set up your lines. And then when it comes to understanding what you actually need for your logic, instead of having you do all these blocks here, what we would do is we would show you a big list of the modules, a big library of modules. And then you can just pick out, hey, I want break even, hey, I want DCA, hey, I want rolling take profits, and I want to combine these together. Hey, I want to, once we have TAlib in here and we're doing stuff, we can even have ATR checks and stuff without extra alerts having to be made. So you can bake into a module, a Bollinger Band, entry, right? And then just grab the Bollinger Band entry and throw it into your strategy as a module. And the cool thing, I said that modules have inputs and outputs. Well, what that means is I can actually have you grab all of those modules and say, I want to combine these three things, hit the next button, and I can show a big list of, just like in 3 commas or Alertatron or Wonderbit, when you set something up, it's really just like a big form of fields that you fill out, and it's really simple, and it's just a bunch of settings, right? I could do the same thing where I take those 3 things that you chose, and all of those inputs and outputs become settings. They become options that you can easily change. Well, then I can just combine all those and display all the settings for everything that you chose, and that's the end of the bot setup. You customized your logic without ever having to look at the rules. But the really cool thing is, if you're like, hey, I don't like the way that this Bollinger Band entry is working, you can actually open up the builder, double click on that module, and dig all the way down into it, so that you can change whatever you want, is still without coding, right? And so that's the grand vision, and that's what I've planned on, and I was actually planning on having that out fairly soon, and needing that because we weren't going to have Timmy for like a year, I was thinking. But now Timmy is bringing up the rear and like, hey, you won't even, I'm going to have both, right? But he's like, hey, you don't even need modules, just use me. And so, yeah, I think we'll have a pretty good, set of interfaces that people will be able to use this complicated tool with.
Have you considered any blockchain integration or like having a wallet built in? I know you wouldn't, well, I don't know this, but I imagine you probably wouldn't want to make it like an exchange where you can already interface through the APIs of exchanges, but having something like a built-in wallet where people could see their assets and then deploy them to different bots and making it kind of more of a seamless experience. I don't know, that comes to mind when I think about, how I would like to see this eventually.
Yeah, so it's a good question.
The power of cryptocurrency combined with what you're doing here.
Yeah. So it's a good question. There's been several avenues that have been brought up. We've talked about a lot of different things. And I'm not exactly sure that this was included in the path that you were just talking about, but I mean, we've even talked about having a Tradelab coin or an NFT for Tradelab for different fundraising purposes. And we've also, looked at, there's been suggestions of DeFi and connecting a wallet, and then, doing a swap. We'd basically be our own swap exchange at that point. And we've looked at that. First of all, I think the swap exchange thing, I think it's something I'm willing to maybe dabble in, but at first it would be a completely separate site that would just be the swap exchange, so that I can understand all of the business side and legalities concerning it, outside of having to deal with the more complication of having it in Tradelab, right? And so that's something that I could look into, but I want to summarize all of that by saying that I'm a very, very liability conscious person. I want to minimize liability at every turn, and I've actually positioned this entire company and service in a somewhat more unique position. I mean, it's not that unique, but I'm providing all of this stuff as a one-stop shop. But what I'm not providing is the strategies and, any sort of guarantee that I know how to make you a profit. I provide you a tool that allows you to build, whatever you want to make a profit. And so that's where I've drawn the liability there. And another line that I've drawn is I never touch your money. I never, ever, ever touch your money right now. The only thing that I do is connect to centralized exchanges, which I'm a big fan of DeFi and everything else, and we can have a long conversation about my thoughts on Web3 and all of that other stuff. But the thing is that I don't right now. You know, I'm connecting to centralized exchanges because I'm putting the onus on them, not on me. I never touch money, right? And so that's sort of where I'm at. Even when we're going into our stock trading, when we're doing our forex trading, that's remaining the same, right? And so when I get suggestions about DeFi, it's just one of those things that it's like, well, that would break that rule, right? But I am interested in it, and I know people want it, and stuff like that. And so it's one of those things that, you know, I continue to monitor and see at what point things will sway me, you know.
Well, the beauty of DeFi is that if you own your own keys, then you own your own coins. So that's why I mentioned something like maybe like a wallet interface where you don't actually hold the tokens. You provide the tool to. I don't know. I guess it would get kind of tricky with legality, but I think you're positioned very cleverly. And finally, I'd just like to say, I'll be happy to help in any way that I can to test. I really like the program. I'm going to be using it, and I look forward to seeing what's coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I should expand on what I said a second ago with I don't provide strategies, I provide a tool. What I also provide is a bunch of tools to strategy creators to empower them so that they can create strategies and then share them with the community. I also allow them to monetize their own strategies with groups, private groups, and that sort of stuff. So just wanted to say that I'm not anti strategy or sharing strategies or anything. I do think this whole copy trading thing has gotten out of control. I'll say that publicly, and I'm still working on the copy trading functions, and I want to support it for you guys, and that's fine. But that stuff scares me. You know, all these new people coming in and not knowing how to trade, and then following people. Even if the guy who creates a strategy and is running it has all good intentions, it's just dangerous because you have a lot of people running on the same thing. You have big pools of liquidity on the heat map. If anybody's ever looked at Bookmap on bookmap.com, or there's a lot of them. There's a bunch of different ones, but this is a heat map of the order book, and you can see where the liquidity is. And if you've ever looked at like support and resistance bands, that's what that is, and it actually comes from the order book, as you would imagine, right? And so you can actually see if a whole bunch of people are running on this strategy, someone can come in here with a bigger bag and just stomp everybody. And the other thing is, when you have like 500 people trading on a strategy, what do you think happens when they all want to enter a limit order on $2.53? You got 500 orders all going on $2.53, and then what if you're the 500th guy? It's a line, it's a queue. You got 499 people who have got to get filled before you get filled, and now you're in late if you ever get in, right? And so there's a lot of people will run market orders to combat that, but then you're not guaranteeing everybody the same price. Some guys get in, and with 500 people getting in, that market's going to move. And so now the 500th guy does get in, but he got a much worse price, right? And so it's a whole thing. But yeah, so soapbox. Sorry, that was a rant, but just wanted to something I often talk about.
Good stuff, though. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. So we started this at 4. It is now 5. I try to keep it within an hour, but it never works, and we're usually on here for many hours. We do have some extracurricular meetings that are going to happen with a few team members after this, so I do want to keep it relatively short. But I do want to hang around just a little bit longer. If anybody else has anything they want to go over, I want to check in with everybody. So I saw, I don't think I'm going to pronounce this right. Feininger. I did see that he sent a message, and I need to read that message. Got some weird strategy stuff going on. Received an alert to go short. Strategy is set to enter via limit order with a 15-minute limit timeout, and only about 1% of my limit order was filled. Partial fill, okay. And yep, and then my TP was hit and my position closed on the exchange, but Tradelab still says open short, looking for exit. Got it. And the original limit order is still open. Yeah. Well, that is one of those edge cases. Everybody hears me always talk about this is hard, you know? So that's one of those edge cases. So let me ask you, and you, if you don't have a mic, you can respond in text, but what would you like to happen in that case? I guess we just close everything, because you got a TP hit on the first 1%, so I guess we just close everything. Because I mean the trade still is open because you do still have 99% that you could reopen on it, but you know, and what's important to me is anything that we come up with, if that's what you want to do, then we need to give you the option to do that, but we also need to make sure that somebody else who has the opposite need as what you have right now has the ability to do what they need to do as well, right? So this is actually a really interesting case. Is anyone else listening to this and following? Does anybody got an opinion on what should happen here? Awesome. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, we'll click up here in just a second. All right, yeah. I'm not exactly sure how we want to handle that, but if I can get some feedback on, you know, what should happen in those cases and the different possibilities of people's expectations of what should happen in those cases, then we'll, you know, I'll be able to do something for you. So I just need a little bit of input on that. And besides that, I guess we lost PJ. Talon, hey, what's up? And Will Sai, what's going on, guys?
What's going on, man?
Hey. Alright. Cool. Well, if there's nothing else, I think we're going to hop off. We got another meeting that we're going to start up here about business stuff and marketing and all that sort of stuff. So I don't want to waste anybody else's time, but that's it. So appreciate everybody for joining us today on the weekly AMA. I'm going to go ahead and cut off the stream now. So if you have any questions, feel free to join us on Discord. And we'll see you next week. All right, have a good one.